Hello and welcome to today's Crossing Borders, the IMC streaming service created to keep investment migration professionals connected and informed. Before we start, I just want to remind you that if you haven't seen one of these broadcasts before, you can catch up through our YouTube channel. Give us a rating and don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe for updates. I'm Bruno Lecuyer, Chief Executive of the IMC. Remember, you can ask questions using the widget on the right of your screen, where you will also find some useful handouts regarding today's session. In this edition of Crossing Borders, we take a deep dive into Citizenship Apartheid, a term coined by today's guest, Professor Dimitry Kochenov, head of the Rule of Law Research Group at the CEU Democracy Institute in Budapest and Professor of Legal Studies at the CEU department in Vienna. To keep you engaged, of course, we'll have some polling. So we're just going to test this out. And today we're asking, where are you watching from today? Typically, we stop at 85% answer rates. So we'll give you a few more seconds. And I'll close that. And you should be able to see the results. 100% of today's viewers are from Europe. So very good afternoon to you in Europe. All right, interesting. There's a short video at the end of today's program about how you can get qualified through the certification in investment migration, so do stay with us. Welcome, Professor Dimitry Kochenov.
It's my pleasure.
So, speaking of passport apartheid as the term you've coined, isn't that a little bit of an exaggeration, and does it actually reflect what citizenship is all about?
This is a great question. Could we remove the slide actually? Okay, that's great. What I thought we would talk about today is something that goes deeper than simply discussing how citizenships are acquired and what kind of rights that they grant us, or how citizenships can be indeed obtained by investment or through a donation. What I had in mind is to go to the question what citizenship actually essentially is about. And here I think apartheid is indeed the appropriate word. And for that, probably we could start with the first poll question, and then we discuss how the results will turn out.
Absolutely. Let me put that in. So the first poll, I believe, is this one. So I'm launching that now. You should be able to see that on your screens. And we're asking, in your opinion, what determines our success in life the most?
Pedigree, wealth, or intellect. Of course, we could make it a much longer list, but I chose 3.
So I think, yeah, we're still getting some votes coming in. So I'm going to close that.
This question is essential, of course, for.
There we go. So 56% of viewers believe wealth determines our success in life, followed by 33% with the intellect and 11% with pedigree. Interesting split, really, Dimitry. Your thoughts?
This is a superb split, and I could guess that it would go in this direction. Of course, like serving as a professor of legal studies, I would probably vote for intellect first, but it would be as wrong as wealth. And this is exactly the core point of our conversation today. So what is citizenship about, and why is it an apartheid system? And here I would draw on Branko Milanovic's research on the essential aspects of inequalities in the world today. And it turns out that citizenship has made a full circle in the way how it operates and how it shapes our world. So if you think about 200 years ago, the first steps of modern citizenship as we know it, it was created in order to break down the caste structures. And these caste structures are not necessarily wealth per se, or intellect per se, or anything else per se, rather than pedigree. So what I'm talking about is a frontal attack on the idea that someone who is born a peasant should remain a peasant and do peasant work and earn nothing for that, and someone who was born a count should remain a count and do the count work, and the gap between peasants and counts is unbridgeable. So why is citizenship an ideal worth to die for 200 years ago and sometimes even now? The answer is because it promises us equality before the law. So the idea that you're a count, it might resonate in your heart. But in the eyes of the law, in a modern democracy where citizenship operates as designed, you will still have the same entitlements officially and the same horizon opportunities in law as someone who might be a peasant, a worker, or whatever else that person does. And this creates a more just society, as we believe. So citizenship was very effective in destroying these caste structures. Why are caste structures repugnant to the modern idea of constitutionalism? Well, the answer is very simple, because it's deeply irrational to transfer all kinds of rights and entitlements based on blood only. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about the castes of peasants versus the caste of nobility. So citizenship is an anti-caste exercise, and this is what makes it attractive. But inequalities have changed since the moment when citizenship was designed, or since the moment when citizenship emerged 200 years ago. So now, if we look at how opportunities in the world are distributed, we actually see a very clear picture. And historians of inequalities have measured that and came up with plenty of numbers. So what Branko Milanovic tells us in his Global Inequality and other books, the majority of them published by Harvard University Press, please have a look if the topic interests you. What he discovers is that now inequalities and opportunities are developed in the world based on space, which means that if you are born in Congo and if you are confined to the territory of one of the Congos, then you will be 50,000 times poorer, no matter what kind of intellectual abilities you have, no matter what kind of education you have achieved on average, than an average American. And then there is a smaller gap, of course, between a Latin American and the U.S. citizen. There is an even smaller gap between an average European and an average American. There is a gap in the different direction between a Swiss and an American. But what plays the crucial role is territory. So as long as territory, not the caste, is something that determines our success in life, then we can have a look at citizenship differently. And what is citizenship? Citizenship is a tool to assign us to that territory, because the one right of citizenship that is observable in all democracies and autocracies alike all around the world is the right to stay and to enter the country that issued you the status in the first place. So the right of Congolese citizenship is to be in Congo, the space of no opportunity. The right of a Swiss citizenship is to be in Switzerland. And then as we develop the thought, what is then the main function of citizenship in the contemporary world of opportunities and life chances? That function is to establish the fence between Congo and Switzerland, which means that citizenship that started as an anti-caste system that tried to a frontal assault on the idea that rights should be distributed by pedigree, in fact came full circle to mean exactly that, because enforcing the boundary between Congo and Switzerland in the situation where inequalities in the world and opportunities in the world are spatialized, means that citizenship enforces these castes, the caste of the Congolese and the caste of the Swiss. So when we think about global opportunities, it's not really wealth, because you cannot make and you cannot retain wealth as effectively in Congo as you can do in Switzerland. You cannot retain and make wealth as effectively in Madagascar as you can do in the United States. And then citizenship plays only one role here. It ensures that those who received less rights by birth, by virtue of who their parents are and where they were actually born, remain in those spaces of no rights, in the context where citizenship is proclaimed to be the main guardian of justice in the world, meaning everybody's assigned to the right place. So those right places are the new castes. And this new caste system of the world, the citizenship system, makes sure that we have a global aristocracy. These are the Swiss, these are other Europeans, these are US citizens, these are the Japanese, these are Australians, and we have all the rest. And all the rest are the guys who are assigned by pedigree to other places in the world, which means that if you look at modern scholarship, the answer is very clear. Everything that we achieve in life, in fact, depends on pedigree in terms of citizenship, as long as pedigree entitles us to be able to benefit from our intellectual capital and to be able to enlarge and retain our wealth. So the numbers are absolutely clear on this count. This is precisely why I wanted to start with that. With that simple question, because this question is a little bit counterintuitive probably, because we all learn, especially in Europe, that citizenship is something overwhelmingly positive, and it is if you are Swiss. But once you look at citizenship from Latin America or from Africa, the situation changes entirely, because instead of an empowerment tool, citizenship suddenly becomes something that works against you, that works against your intellectual capacity, against your wealth, and against your possible life plan. So this would be the shortest answer. And if this answer is correct, then citizenship unquestionably becomes a form of apartheid. Apartheid being a random distribution of entitlements based on irrelevant factors. It can be your skin color, it can be the ethnicity of your father, of your mother, factors like this. And this is exactly what citizenship is about, as I argue.
Right, your paper, which is available in the bottom right widget of today's broadcast, quotes a writer, which I presume is one of your academic colleagues, Branko Milanovic, in his paper, Global Inequality. He argues, I believe it's him, that such citizenship has emerged as the main tool of installment, preservation, and reinforcement of global inequality. Do you think that's changed since 2016? Where we've been, in sort of 8 years, there's been so much change, seismic shifts globally through a pandemic. We're heading into, what is, undoubtedly a global recession, rising food prices. Is that still valid, that statement today?
The statement is valid as long as it actually describes the main engine of the functioning of the world. And as long as the world distributes its opportunities, rights, and wealth ultimately by spatializing it, no matter what kind of troubles the world would go through, the same principle remains unchanged. Which means that even if there is a global recession, this recession will touch those who are confined to rightless spaces as much, if not more, than those who are empowered by the rights their citizenship grants them from the moment of birth. So in this sense, the pandemic has not changed the way how rights and opportunities are distributed around the world. And if we look at migration enforcement and all those people who try to go against this unjust distribution And believe me, you would wholeheartedly agree that it's unjust if you had a passport of the Central African Republic or Madagascar or any place like this, a place of no opportunity. Then we see that plenty of them die trying to change precisely their localization. And I'm not speaking about lawful or unlawful, legal or illegal migration. I'm speaking about the only way that is available for those people to enlarge their horizon opportunities. Because if we look at research in migration and naturalizations, it becomes easily apparent that the majority of the inhabitants of the poorest places in the world have zero chance to lawfully migrate, to legally change their status, which means that, and Yossi Harpas has a wonderful book on this, Citizenship 2.0, which Princeton University Press published. He looked at who naturalizes where. And of course, plenty of Israelis acquire plenty of European passports. And of course, plenty of Brazilians become Americans. Russians, Ukrainians naturalize elsewhere, but no one from Madagascar will ever naturalize. Which means that when we speak about lawful migration and status change that is improving the situation of plenty of people around the globe, wealthy people, but also poor people, smart people, but also silly people, all those people come from kind of second-rate economies in terms of the wealth that they generate, in terms of GDP per capita, in terms of the weight in the global economy. They don't come from the lowest ranking spaces. And this is precisely why we see so many people dying in the Mediterranean or in the Arizona desert. These are not the guys from Brazil, from Ukraine, or from Israel who would be traveling in those boats. These are the guys who come from the most dispossessed spaces, who are the most affected by the contemporary distribution of opportunities in the world.
Okay, so it's very much on rights based, isn't it, this? So I just want to move on, Professor Kochenov, and let's look at rights a little bit. And we're going to come to our second poll, and we're asking viewers, which citizenship, in your opinion, gets you more rights in the world? So if you could please answer.
This seems quite obvious, right? So I think here there will be little hesitation, but still it will be interesting to discuss the results.
It does, and we're already quite quickly at 79%. So just to remind our viewers, the choice is Canada, Bulgaria, or Madagascar. Now, we spoke about Madagascar a few moments ago, of course. So I close that now, and I'll share the results of that.
Oh, that's great. Madagascar received 0%. This is quite logical because it's a ghastly place if we speak about the quality of passports. Of course, I'm not speaking about the capacities of the people or the beauty of the landscape. But if you can imagine a Madagascan passport in your pocket, then of course you will rightly conclude that that the world is not for you, because you can basically put a fat cross on any plans or any endeavors that you want to undertake. The passport will always be against you. But in terms of putting Canada first, this shows how illogical our thinking about passports actually is. Here I come to the idea of intercitizenships, which I think is fundamental for the understanding of contemporary world. When we speak about the world of opportunities that passports create, the map of opportunities that this world is responsible for will not be directly correlating with or directly corresponding to the map of the political organization of the world. And in this sense, Canada is a great place, and it's probably a greater place than Bulgaria. But Canadian citizenship unquestionably is an infinitely worse one than the Bulgarian one. Why is that? This is precisely because of the intercitizenship factor. And intercitizenship means that plenty of jurisdictions all around the world conclude bilateral, multilateral agreements that allow each other's citizens to have full benefits and full rights in each other's economies and in each other's spaces, which means that while citizenship locks you away, if you hold one of the worst ones in the world, like the Malagashian citizenship, if you go up the quality ladder in the world of nationalities, usually you don't just get the rights in a better country. What you get are rights in all the countries with which that better country also concluded special agreements about your rights. So if we look at if we look at Bulgarian citizenship, then it's obvious that besides Bulgaria, whatever we think about it, you also get rights in almost 40 other countries, and those rights amount to the basically unconditional right to remain in the territory, precisely what no Malagashian will ever get, and the right not to be discriminated against on the basis of nationality, which means that if you found a company in France with your Bulgarian passport, nobody will be able to say that you or your company should be somehow frowned upon as a result of your Bulgarian nationality. In fact, quite the contrary will be true, because anyone who makes this argument will be directly in breach of European Union law, and then countless cases by national and also the supranational courts relate to the enforcement of this right of non-discrimination based on nationality. So in essence, Bulgarian passport is by far better than Canadian, and this demonstrates how the allegiance to the country itself as a starting point of thinking about passports could be actually misleading. So the world is broadly then divided into three categories. The first category will be the super citizenships of those who get rights in the territory of the wealthiest and the most promising economic spaces, like the US, like France, like Switzerland. But then those rights will also be boosted by bilateral agreements and multilateral agreements. So if you are Swiss, Switzerland is already great, but then 48 other countries will treat you as one of their own. So in fact, for all senses and purposes, a Swiss passport is 48 passports in your pocket in terms of the crucial rights that you get, rather than one. And here the difference between Bulgaria and Canada is that Canada works on 19th century principles of one country, one space of opportunities, one citizenship starting point in terms of the allocation of rights. Canada does not have any kind of agreements which could be compared with Switzerland or with Bulgaria, which means that if you're Canadian, then you only get rights in Canada. So Canada will be the second tier citizenship in this global spread, comparable probably to Brazil, comparable to Israel, comparable to plenty of other respectable places, but not the best. And then Madagascar is obviously an example of one of the worst passports in terms of rights. So citizenship apartheid it works in such a way that there are no two categories of citizens, but probably three or four. And Canada then is the second, while Bulgaria will be the first.
Okay, I think you would have surprised quite a few people with that, saying Bulgaria, provides more rights than Canada, and this is exactly why we have these educational sessions on crossing borders. One of the questions that has come in is, in this case, why do we need to engage with passport apartheid if we're interested in investment migration, which our audience is? How relevant is that, Professor Kochenov?
Well, this is a great question that in fact goes to the heart of what would interest the scholar in the world of investment migration. Investment migration has not been around 50 years ago, and suddenly it's a booming business. Why is that? And the answer is that we obviously see that the inequalities between different citizenships are only growing, and this is precisely in line with what Branko Milanovic has been describing as inequalities in the world in terms of all your complete horizon opportunities move away from the caste systems within a particular country to the caste systems which would be globally relevant, such as the Bulgarian passport. Bulgaria is not such a great economy, is not such a great place to be economically successful worldwide. Yet because of the positioning of Bulgarian nationality in the world of rights and opportunities, it suddenly becomes a better place objectively than plenty of superb economies which don't position themselves in a similar way, which means that it's a much better passport, which is much more attractive in terms of rights. And then in order to understand why people are willing to essentially to waste hundreds of thousands of euros on a different passport, and or if we take a different route, why should people imprison themselves for 5-10 years in one country just to get naturalized there by residence? Or why should people dig in the dirty laundry of their family just to find some great-grandfather from Greece in order to acquire a Greek passport? All these are pointers in one direction. It means that due to the discrepancies in the basic quality of citizenships around the world, we have created, well, the world has evolved in such a direction that that some categories of nationalities do not simply give you the basic floor level of global success, no matter what kind of education, what kind of wealth you enjoy. In order for you to be able to genuinely compare yourself in terms of rights with the holders of the super citizenships, the global elite of the world of nationalities. And this explains why investment migration exists in the first place. It exists in the first place because there are so many victims of citizenship, and they phrase it as victims of citizenship, precisely making an emphasis on citizenship, because plenty of people can be intellectually overwhelmingly accomplished and still a victim. Plenty of these people can be multimillionaires and still a victim, because if you are really very wealthy, but the status of global rights that is allocated to you by birth is the status that is provided by the state of Madagascar, then your wealth will not necessarily immediately be able to compensate for the second-rateness of your global position. And again, I'm not saying it in order to be judgmental about the people of Madagascar. It's simply about the distribution of rights which connect rights globally, which connect to particular nationalities. So the situation is created where a Kazakhstani, a Malagashian, a Tunisian, etc., in order to be globally successful at the same level as an American or a Swiss, will have to upgrade their citizenship status at one point or another. And without the victims of citizenship, there would be no investment migration. So we need to be absolutely clear about it. Without the unjust distribution of rights, in no relation to the personal projects of the holders of those rights, this blood distribution based on castes basically explains why so many people who are not lucky at the moment of birth to get born as a Swiss need to invest a lot of money and a lot of time if they don't choose the investment migration route, if they choose the length of residence route, in order to upgrade their status. So I think this is a fundamental point which we should fully realize. Investment migration is only possible in the world which is as repugnant in terms of the underlying justice factors that distribute rights as the world which we inhabit today. So instead of, and I'm not celebrating this, I'm just pointing in the direction of the explanation of why so many people are actually willing to spend so much money, while others, Americans and the Swiss, will not join the same drive. And the explanation is quite obvious. The first group are the victims, while the second group are the aristocracy in the contemporary world of citizenship apartheid.
Are you seeing that perhaps in the last few years or maybe decade, in terms of rights, that lawful rights that citizens have, that countries are working hard to improve the quality of their citizenship? I ask because you've authored and researched the Quality of Nationality Index for the last few years. Are you seeing improvements in the quality of nationalities? Are we seeing them plateauing? What is your perspective on that, sir?
This is an absolutely wonderful question because we see quite clearly, and the Quality of Nationality Index, the last edition was published by Hart Publishing, which is part of Bloomsbury in 2020. The Quality of Nationality Index, which I designed with Chris Callan and Justin Lindebaum, shows this quite clearly. So, for instance, if we look at the United Arab Emirates, this is a skyrocketing kind of nationality, which definitely has totally changed the face of this status in terms of activation of rights in the world today. The second skyrocketing nationality will be the Republic of Colombia. When someone asks you whether it's a good or a bad thing to have a Colombian citizenship status, the natural prejudice will go in the direction of Bulgaria in our poll. But in fact, Colombia has improved dramatically because of the efforts of its government, because governments need to be proactive in concluding visa-free travel agreements, in concluding full access agreements in terms of inter-citizenship schemes that would then improve the scope of rights that the citizens enjoy. And of course, the third example will be all the countries that have just joined the European Union over the last decade. So if you compare Croatian citizenship before EU membership with Croatian citizenship after EU membership, the same like Bulgaria, the same like Romania, the same like Poland, these are simply different planets in terms of rights. Mm-hmm. So this is the easiest way probably to significantly, overwhelmingly boost the scope of rights that you give to your citizens. That's joining a powerful bloc that prohibits discrimination based on nationality inside the bloc. So suddenly a Croatian overnight becomes by law equal to a Frenchman or to a Swiss person or to a Norwegian, because of course not only EU member states play by the rules of this club, but also EEA member states and also Switzerland. Right. So we see huge discrepancies, and these discrepancies are not only observable statically between the qualities of different nationalities, but also dynamically, because there are also countries which make significant steps back by shooting themselves in the knee. And of course, the easiest way is to start a war. So if you are Syria or Libya, good luck convincing the world that your citizenship status is worth anything. But the biggest drop that we have ever observed is in fact the citizenship of the United Kingdom, because a country that guaranteed non-discrimination precisely on the basis of nationality for all of its citizens in almost 50 jurisdictions around the world, chose to dump all those rights. So now British citizens are treated like Tunisians in Brussels, and they're treated like actually worse than Ukrainians. They're treated like Belarusians, like the Kyrgyz in Germany and France. And I'm speaking about this in terms of rights, of course, not in terms of racial, cultural, and other prejudices.
Right. Because and this has been triggered by Brexit.
And this is all the outcome of Brexit. Brexit is the biggest assault on citizenship rights in observable history, because instead of getting rights in 50 jurisdictions, Brits now get rights in one. And this clearly explains, and it connects very well with our point why investment migration is observable at all. This explains why so many British citizens suddenly started acquiring other statuses. So they overwhelmed the consulates of Ireland. They overwhelmed the consulates of Sweden. Plenty of them became Greeks. Plenty of them became whoever, really, Italians, Frenchmen. Even the Dutch, the Dutch system was overwhelmed. Although Dutch law requires you to renounce the previous nationality before you become Dutch, which means that in essence the Brits have voted with their feet. And here there is an interesting point to be made about the change of status and migration. So we frequently speak about investment migration, but it's essential to realize that if migration is understood as changing places in space, like moving from state A to state B, then investment migration is usually not that, because investment migration is about the upgrade of your personal legal status, the status of citizenship, which obviously affects your rights all around the world, but does not require any kind of physical move. So if you are from Kyrgyzstan and you acquire a passport of St. Kitts and Nevis, of course you have upgraded your status a little bit, but it doesn't mean that you are moving anywhere. You of course will be continuing your life and continuing doing your business and continuing enjoying your family ties, your culture in Kyrgyzstan, which you know so well. But everywhere in the world you will be treated better because you have a better personal legal status and a better citizenship, which is provided by a different country. So migration should not mislead in terms of the weight of prejudgment that comes with it, the prejudgment and the expectation of some kind of travel, suitcases, tickets. When we speak about investment migration and when we speak about the world of passport apartheid, very often escaping the consequences of passport apartheid doesn't actually require you to move to a different country. What it requires you to do is to upgrade your personal legal status and then start living a different life globally based on the rights that your new legal status entitles you to enjoy.
Right. Okay. I mean, in this case, if more and more lawful residents obtain the same rights as citizens, is citizenship then not thinning over the last decades? And what exactly is the added value of citizenship?
This is a great perspective on the same story that I already started telling you a little bit. So we can only speak about the thinning of citizenship if we believe that everybody should leave the spaces of no opportunity, and that any kind of status upgrade should only be possible by physical movement. So if you want to be Swiss, you have to be in Switzerland, and then you will be a long-term resident there. If you are not ready to move to Switzerland and to spend many years there, then you cannot enjoy the rights of the rights that status provides. And if we look at the world today, obviously plenty of liberal democracies, especially the most developed economies, let's put it that way, make sure that there is no outright discrimination between long-term residents and citizens. So if you're a green card holder in the US, you will be treated in the majority of contexts as a US citizen. Of course, there are some limitations. You will have different. You will not have the same political engagement rights. There will be some limitations in terms of the rights that you enjoy in terms of the freedom of travel, because green card is not accepted.
Right.
In the majority of places. In some places it is, but in the majority of places it's not. As a sign that would activate visa-free travel. But inside the country, discrimination is prohibited. And then if we adopt this migration paradigm that implies switching spaces, then of course citizenship is thinning. But the trouble is that the majority of people don't actually want to migrate. The majority of people want to stay where they are. So here investment migration comes as a radically different paradigm. And then if we speak about migration in terms of improving your status, legal status, instead of in terms of swapping countries, thinning citizenship doesn't help at all. Because in fact, the majority of countries that see citizenship thinning inside the country reinforce border protection and punish those who want to enter without any kind of pre-entrance permits. Those people are punished very harshly. So if we look at the terrible massacre that the European Union has organized in the Mediterranean, thousands of people die every year and thousands of people are molested, and there are special agreements with some Libyan thugs who installed militias who fish people out from the sea. Those militias are directly funded by the EU and some of the EU member states. So they're provided with boats, with helicopters, with enough money to build prisons for the absolutely innocent migrants on the northern African shore, who are then exploited and sold for ransom or enslaved. So this is how citizenship works between territories rather than inside. So we can all respect the thinning of citizenship perspective, and this is Professor Jobke from Bern, who made overwhelming contributions to the study of citizenship. This absolutely works inside Switzerland, inside the US, inside France. But once we go to the liminal spaces, to the boundary between the European Union and Africa, between the United States and Mexico, then all this citizenship story, which implies thinning, is not observable at all anymore, because those who have the wrong status cannot enter no matter what. And if they try, if they come from the third-rate group of the most discriminated victims of the citizenship apartheid regime, then most likely they will actually be killed or enslaved rather than admitted to the spaces of opportunity which super citizenships have created for themselves. So this is a slightly misleading story if you only regard citizenship as something that is valuable, valid, and something to be taken into account within one country. At the borders, it works different.
Professor Kochenov, we're running out of time, but 5 minutes left for today's Crossing Borders. So I'd like to move on to the final poll of this session, and I'm going to launch that for our viewers right now. And we're asking, in your opinion, what is the best logical match that goes with citizenship? Is it self-government, order, or colonialism?
The question is designed to be deceptive, of course, so I hope you enjoy answering.
They seem to be. So once more, use your mouse or your touch screens, and we're asking, in your opinion, what is the best logical match to go with citizenship or to pair with citizenship? Is it self-government, order, or colonialism? We're at 85%, so I'm going to close that poll and I'm going to share the results with you. Professor Kochenov, your comments, please.
There is no correct answer, because all the answers are absurd as the Institute of Citizenship is. So if we believe that citizenship is a form of passport apartheid, or is the backbone of passport apartheid, then answering order means signaling approval to this system of distribution of rights and duties around the world, and rights and opportunities around the world. And I would take this cum grano salis, because this is obviously an unjust way to distribute opportunities, which was exactly why citizenship was so popular in the first place. So if we believe that citizenship is about equality before the law and creating better opportunities for all, both for the peasant and for the count, then to say that citizenship is good in ensuring order. By order, we necessarily mean not letting the guys from Madagascar to have the same set of rights by their blood, by birth, as the rights that the guys in France would have. That means that we are returning to the same aristocracy kind of thinking. And then if we move towards colonialism, this is probably the best explainer for what citizenship is, if we look at the function of citizenship today. Because as I said, if all the world is splitting into super citizens such as the Swiss or the French, the normal citizens such as Canadians, Israelis, and Brazilians, and then the victims of passport apartheid, those who get nothing as a result of the split, such as the citizens of the Central African Republic of Madagascar, then it's quite obvious what the skin color and what the pedigree of all those who get nothing is. And historically, it's easy to explain where this nothing comes from. So the majority of the citizens of the formerly colonized spaces, who were excluded on the basis of race from all the rights in the world of empires before decolonization, suddenly received their new passports when decolonization happened. They became citizens of new states. And what do we see? we see that the rights that come together with those citizenships are even worse than what those guys were when they were racialized and in the world of empires would get in terms of mistreatment in the imperial world. So citizenship is basically a different way as it works in contemporary world. Citizenship is a different way of justifying racism without naming racism openly, which makes it a tricky kind of business. This is not the most popular starting point for your citizenship discussions, but we cannot ignore the obvious fact that this is true. This is simply how citizenship works, and this is why plenty of the guys from those former colonial spaces will never be drinking coffee next to you somewhere in Geneva or in Vienna, where I'm now. This is the drama of the world today.
Professor Kochenov, ending this episode of Crossing Borders, thank you so much for taking the time to join us from your busy schedule in between Vienna and Budapest. Feel free to reach out to Professor Kochenov directly through his LinkedIn. You can also find the entire broadcast on our YouTube channel. And once you are there, please do me a small but valuable favor by leaving us a rating and your comments. We'll be back on the 16th of November 2022 at 2:30 Central European Time. Until then, thank you so much for participating and see you soon.
Thank you, Bruno. It was a delight.
Thank you.
Introducing the Certification in Investment Migration from the Investment Migration Council, the first structured learning product of its kind globally, designed for you. Explore the bite-sized learning pathway of each module on our custom online platform. You can track your progress as you go and learn at a pace that suits you, with an estimated 5 hours of study time per module. The Certification in Investment Migration contributes to the development of professional competencies and standards for those new to or already working in the industry. So, what are you waiting for? Visit our website to start your learning journey today.